Welcome back to the Business of Show podcast. It brings me great pleasure to introduce Taneesha Mirwani, known to most by her social media handle Taneesho. I've known her as Tatu ever since I was basically born, but I still remember dinner table conversations of my parents who never really understood the concept of what an online influencer was, saying, wow, this is really going somewhere. And I've seen her grow all the way from zero to now 460,000 followers on Instagram and 280,000 subscribers on YouTube. She is hilarious, has an awesome personality, and I believe has a lot we can learn from. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was actually such a sweet introduction.
Anything you would like to add?
I mean, no, I feel like you pretty much covered everything basically. But yes, I'm also a student at BU studying advertising. So I feel like that could be a little bit important since that also fuels a little bit of what I'm doing.
Yeah. So let's just jump straight into it. What is an influencer? What do you consider an influencer?
So I feel like everybody has a different definition of that. I actually don't think I'm an influencer, but I feel like an influencer is someone who actually does have the power to make some sort of change or to actually influence people. So I feel like bigger political figures are influencers or celebrities are influencers. I feel like I merely use the term content creator for myself because that's essentially what I do. I just like to entertain people, put stuff out there. But I don't think people are necessarily being influenced by me. So,
Honestly, okay, I wanted to jump into this later in the episode, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that there because
okay,
anyone who's familiar with your content has seen you don't only post reels and videos and posts that are like jokes, or it's not necessarily just a quick snap or like hashtag relatable video, but
true.
you do tackle a lot of social issues such as, say, sexism or homophobia or 10,000 different things
Right.
through a lens of humor or relatable content. And I feel like that does have an impact on people, even if you don't see it as directly or it's only reaching a couple thousand people instead of millions as a politician would. I still feel like you have some powerful influence, at least in this small niche South Bombay culture that we live in.
I
So,
would hope so. I would hope it's making
yeah,
some sort of change.
yeah,
But yeah, I do feel like it's a broad word. So yeah.
yeah. But I would definitely classify you as an influencer.
Okay, fair. I'll take it.
But yeah. So basically, what content do you produce for those who are unfamiliar with what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, like, you covered a little bit of it is relatable, a little bit of it is jokes that would be more relatable to mine and your age group. And then I also feel like on YouTube and now a little bit on Instagram too, I do daily vlogging. So I have a big part of like my personal life be out there. And I think that's essentially it. So there's comedy, there's relatable stuff. I think I have dived into fashion a little bit.
Hmm.
And then there's daily vlogging. So yeah,
And
that sums up everything I do.
what medium is this through? Is this mainly Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts? Where do you put out your content?
So mainly Instagram and Instagram Reels in itself. I think I use Instagram the most out of any of the apps. And then I do have a lot of more long form videos that go on YouTube. So essentially, my YouTube itself has videos that are between the 8 to 10 minute range,
Yeah.
whereas Instagram, I think Reels are only up to a minute. So I feel like I do a little bit of both, and then anything I post on Instagram Reels is likely to go up on YouTube Shorts as well. But I'm more active in long form on YouTube and short form on Instagram. So yeah.
Yeah. And in the current landscape, in terms of content and the algorithms, what's working for you? Is this short form content, the long form content?
I think currently, so if you're asking in terms of the algorithm, I think short form content is now starting to work a lot better because short form content itself is very new. I think the first we ever heard of short form content was like Vine back in the day.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I guess Vine got discontinued and then Musically started, which eventually turned into TikTok. So I feel like short form content has only really come up in the last 10 to 12 years, whereas long form content has been here for 20 years or more. So I feel like algorithm wise, because short form content is comparatively newer on Instagram, YouTube Shorts are newer, TikTok is newer. I think a lot of these profiles are trying to boost that a lot more. So if you're trying to grow your profile, I would recommend going the short form route. Um, But I personally, in terms of convenience, I also prefer short form just because I'm in college, so it's a little bit hard to do the whole long form thing when there's so much already happening. But I definitely prefer the short form route just because it's easier, it's quicker, and it's also honestly now proving to like grow more and make you reach your followers more and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think short form content is definitely the next frontier of the way content is being consumed. I mean,
yeah, 100%.
earlier you mentioned with Vine and Musically and things like that, it was still very young, the audience who were watching these things. But now,
Correct.
literally anywhere you go, whether it be a rural village in India or in the US or my parents or even grandparents, everyone is
Yeah,
consuming, whether it be reels or whether it be through Facebook or YouTube. It's short form
yeah,
content is where it's at the moment. But
yeah, 100%.
so how many videos do you produce usually? How often are you producing short form content and long form content?
Right. So I feel like long form content is what I used to do was so when I was in India, I used to do long form content about once in 2 weeks or once in a week. And now that I'm here, I do maybe once in 1 month. But I think for short form, while I'm here, I try to aim for 3 to 4 short form videos, like a reel or a TikTok coming out every 3 to 4 times a week. Yeah, I think that's what I
Hmm.
said. And then, but if I was in India, I try to go every day with short form and once a week for long form because that's how you really grow as
Yeah,
per the algorithm. But because that doesn't happen as much, at least twice, like once in 2 days is what I'm trying.
yeah. And what's the creative process like for, say, short form videos? Where do you get your inspiration from? What do you like to talk about? How do you make it funny or relatable? What's the goal there?
Right. I think it just is inspired by real life events for me. I think anything that happens in my everyday life, that's either it frustrates me or it makes me really happy, but I feel like somewhere in the back of my head, there's a thought that, oh, wait, that could be a real, or oh, wait, I feel like so many more people can relate to this, and I should do something with it. And I think that's where it essentially comes from. I think it's all just inspired by real life. I feel like I'm not as creative as people might think I am, just because I mean, it's all just real life. It's not really anything I'm making up.
Hmm. And is that so? How much effort goes into, say, one short form video? Like for one 60-second video?
So right, so it depends. Now I do a little bit of daily vlogging, and then for the vlogs itself, it takes much longer than expected because I'm filming my entire day, and I feel like a lot of my day gets taken into filming or getting, even it's for just a second in that entire 60-second reel, you do want like a good shot.
Yeah,
And then when it actually comes to editing, because I like to put in captions and I like to put in a little bit graphics, I feel like that also in itself takes me about an hour and a half to edit one 60-second reel if it's a vlog. But if it's just those little bantery, or if it's like what's the word? What's the word I'm thinking of? Or if it's me playing a character,
yeah,
like a sketch or something like that, those take way less time. So I feel like that totally would take me about 1 hour to finish recording and editing that. But in a daily vlog, it's the entire day to record and then about 2 hours to edit the whole thing.
yeah. And now that you've reached the level of success you're at, where does monetization come in? How is this content monetized for someone, say, at least like older generations? My parents, I mean, my mom told me before I even spoke to you, she was like, whenever I hear kids saying, "Oh, I want to grow up and be an influencer," it's always like, "Oh, it's a cute hobby, or it's something that they can do to become famous or famous on the internet." But now we know, or at least we know as a part of the younger generation, that this is literally a job. I mean, this could be someone's
Yeah.
future for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So how viable do you think it is as a career, and how is it even a career?
Okay. So I feel like in terms of like just doing content on social media, I don't think it's the most viable or the most sustainable career to have. I think even for me personally, I feel like it'll last me what, another 5 to 7 more years. But I feel like 20 years down the line, I don't think I'm going to forget even wanting to do it. I don't think I'll be able to sit and have a vlog camera if I have children or whatever my life is 20 years down the line. I think in that sense, a lot of people do love doing it as a hobby passion, yes, but it is important to also like try to seek out a future from it. So now what I'm seeing is a lot of influencers are also starting their own businesses and transforming their fan base into the actual consumers. Or a lot of them are getting an acting career out of it. So I feel like it's a stepping stone to something bigger. And of course, it does work out for some people. I mean, I personally know some influencers who have been doing it for 10 years or more. And I feel like in that case, it's also a matter of luck. So you can also obviously try for that. But I personally see it as something that's not extremely sustainable, but it could be a good stepping stone to something that could be extremely successful. So that's how I see it. And then in terms of monetizing, it is definitely a full-time job the way it is, and also it pays like a full-time job because, contrary to popular belief, actually you don't get paid from an Instagram or YouTube directly. From YouTube you do, but it's very less. It's not enough to actually sustain a lifestyle. The way influencers get paid is through brand deals. So let's say I have a big enough following on my Instagram or on my YouTube, and then there is a brand, for example, Coca-Cola, that says, okay, can you do a reel or a video or a photo shoot with our products, and can you promote them either directly or indirectly? And then based on that, you will sign a contract with them, and then they'll pay you depending on how many things they want you to do for them. So if you do, so some people actually have it like celebrities. So I know someone who's got a brand deal with Puma, and she's signed with them. So for 6 months, she's exclusive to Puma. She cannot be seen wearing Nike or Adidas or stuff like that. And they pay her a good hefty amount to like post maybe 10 reels in the next 6 months doing that. So some companies go about it like that, but some, for example, for me, I recently worked with Spotify and they were just like, can you just do one reel with us because we've introduced a new feature? And then in that sense, it's a small contract. You sign, I'm not exclusive to them. Um, and they pay me, and that's essentially just one video. So everyone does it a little bit differently, but I think everything is binded by contract, and the way you monetize as an influencer is mainly through brand deals, because if you try to earn from YouTube directly, it's not as sustainable as one might think. It's quite less in comparison to what a brand would pay.
And what makes you decide between this is a good brand deal and this is a bad one? What makes you say, I want to promote this product and not another?
So there's two things. One is how my audience is. So I feel like if this is something that will appeal to my audience or that my audience might find relatable, then I'll go ahead and, do it. Because, like, so, for example, Spotify is something a lot of people from our generation like following and stuff like that. But I feel like something like I don't even know. I don't know, something like, I don't even know actually, something like that my dad would use, but our generation wouldn't necessarily use, is not
Yeah,
something
yeah.
I would try to promote. And then the second thing is if I personally like the product itself, like Apple Music in itself, I haven't done a deal with because I don't use it. I have a subscription to Spotify, which is why I would prefer using something like that because I anyway already use it. So those are my two main things. I have to use it and my audience should want to use it. But anything that doesn't follow through with that is not something I would go after.
And do you ever feel like the contracts or whatever deal you signed is kind of constricting your creative process? Like you want to make a reel about it in this way, but the company has said, no, we want it to be more structured or more formal. Do you ever think it restricts your freedom in a sense?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like at least in India, because this is a newer market and even brands are getting more used to it, there's a lot of restriction on creative freedom that an influencer can have when it comes to promoting products, as opposed to how it is in other countries at least. I just feel like a lot of these companies, they do want to get their message out in a certain way, but they sort of like if they're picking an influencer, there's obviously something they like about this influencer or something they see in this influencer that will get their message out to their audience. But I feel like a lot of times they try to rob that essence of the influencer and do a very structured, scripted video. And then it gets very difficult between a brand and an influencer to find a center ground because they obviously want a very censored way of
Yeah,
putting the brand out. And some of us obviously want a little bit more of like joking and a little bit more of sarcasm and a little bit more of fun. But I feel
yeah.
like there's always a bit of that conflict.
Yeah, I feel like India specifically is still a few years behind in terms of the ways companies market and advertise. Because if you look at any Western company in the world, you will see they have social media accounts, they're posting memes or they're replying with meme
Yeah.
tweets or they're engaging the audience. Like even something like the Paralympics account
Yeah.
makes edits of the athletes and puts like meme sounds over
Oh
it.
yeah.
Even that, like 10 years ago, that would be, oh my God, that is so disrespectful. That's crazy how they
Oh
could
yeah.
even do that. But today,
Yeah.
that's wow, they're getting their word out, they're spreading their message, they're increasing their viewership.
Exactly.
But I feel like that's still not fully understood in the Indian market, but
No, not
it's
at all. Because
slowly.
there's so many times I want to be like, can we do like a funny, like roasty comment about the brand? Like sort of the brand being a little bit more self-aware, and they're just like, absolutely not. Like we want a certain image. But
Mm,
I feel like that's not always the most viable form of getting your message out there because sure you're like maintaining a certain image, but not a lot of people are going to one believe it,
mm.
and two, you're just not going to get a big audience because you're not trying anything different now.
Yeah.
So.
I guess they've taken the leap to at least go towards influencers, but not given them the
That's
creative control, even though they are the ones that understand their audience better than these
exact.
companies. But
Yeah.
I guess it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. You produce a lot of content specific to South Bombay, South Mumbai. Now,
Correct.
how did you realize this niche specifically works for you and is what you want to continue doing?
I think it's just because I've like grown up in that environment is why I feel like I understand it so well. A lot of the times people keep telling me like you're literally making fun of South Bombay people when you fully fall into that category. But I always respond saying, who better to play a South Bombay girl than literally me?
Yeah.
Because I've grown up there, I've known it, I've been in that space. And I feel like when you start understanding the people around you and you start growing from there, at least for me, I felt like it was such a good stepping stone because I first understood the market of the people around me and of people my own age. Um, so I started with that. And then when I started getting a response to those kind of videos, I then started going into different spaces and figuring it out from there. But I feel like it's not that bad to start in your own comfort zone is what I feel like because I feel like anyway getting onto social media and taking a video of yourself is stepping out of your comfort zone. So I feel like to start in a place where I know how it kind of works was sort of what I felt like would be best for my career on social media. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I found it quite interesting because nowhere else have I seen hyper specific niche content tailored to such a specific audience. And the best part about it is that it actually works. I mean, it's genuinely relatable in the sense that you can make a cliche video about SoBo boys or SoBo girls or
Yeah.
stereotypes or pen stereotypes. And every single one of them will be something I have personally experienced or something I've heard of. And just I think that level of relatability works so insanely well that like basically everyone in South Bombay who has Instagram has seen at least one reel from your account without exception at every single one.
I would hope so. I mean, that's kind of what I'm going for. Because I also feel like the good thing about South Bombay content is that when you're making fun of someone from South Bombay, even someone from Delhi will look at it and laugh.
Hmm.
Just because while you may understand the jokes personally, I
Hmm.
feel like someone else might just look at a joke and they may not understand it as well, but they'll still
Yeah,
laugh because it's essentially humor. It's essentially making fun of one breed, and I feel like people thrive on putting down other people as sad as it is, but you can always take something positive out of it.
of
So.
course. But do you feel like having such a niche or hyper specific audience is restricting your growth in a way?
So initially, I used to feel that way that, these South, like I used to put in a lot of effort into these South Bombay videos. Um, like I'd have a camera set up and this and that, and it would only go to like 5,000, 6,000 people that would
Hmm.
genuinely relating to that kind of stuff. But that is when I also started diverting my content into other places. So I feel like in terms of comedy, yes, my audience is South Bombay people and that's it. But now that I have other content going out like fashion, vlogging, etc., I feel like it is reaching a different and newer audience. So I feel like I'm not as upset about it. But if you're asking in terms of strategy, I would 100% recommend anyone, if you're doing something that is restricting you to an audience, that's fine. You can always have your niche audience, but if you're trying to grow, you will have to diversify at some point. So,
I mean, personally, I've seen niche audiences work as a first step to build a core audience or like a core fan
yeah,
base that'll follow your
100%.
content, and then you
100%.
can expand further from there. But do
Yeah,
you think going to the US for an education for college, how has that impacted your journey as a creator?
definitely negatively. Um, just because when I'm here, the entire algorithm changes. It gets a little bit confusing, especially like you said, my audience is it's not even like it's India, it's literally Mumbai.
Yeah.
So when you're in a different country and I'm out of that, I make my content from the situations I'm in. So my research is gone. Like I have none of my friends around me, my family's not around me. I'm not getting that kind of inspiration from anywhere. And then secondly, just that I've gotten so busy in university life because when you're here, some part of you is like, okay, now I need to consider maybe I want to settle here, or maybe I want to build a life here. So in figuring out jobs, internships, working on campus, doing social media on the side, but also studies and stuff like that, then I guess you kind of lose sight of social media a little bit because you're so focused on the other aspect of your life. So I feel like I in fact haven't been taking content creation seriously at all ever since I got here.
Mm.
Um, and then in that, I find my social media to stagnate. Like when I'm in India, I feel like my growth is a lot higher. So I'd be increasing followers, at least 2 to 3 thousand followers a week. And then when I'm here, it's like I'll gain 1,000 followers over a span of like 1 to 2 months, which isn't ideal. But I think I look at it positively because at least I'm not losing them. I'm just
Yeah.
not growing. So yeah, it's definitely not. If you're trying to build a niche audience at a certain place, it's best to stay in that place if you want it
Mm.
to grow. So,
So it's definitely not your main focus anymore because of lack of time or too many other
yeah,
focuses. Yeah.
yeah, not at all.
I guess that happens. Um, but has it changed your perspective in terms of the content you wish to create? Has it driven you to create things like you mentioned fashion and other forms of content? Has it wanted you to expand past such a niche audience?
Yeah, 100%. I think the good part about coming abroad with my content is that I did end up diversifying a lot. So, a lot of my South Bombay comedy extended to comedy that was maybe more relatable for girls, or fashion videos that again are more relatable for girls, or like an audience that would be more interested in that kind of stuff. So I feel like there was definitely a lot of diversification. I started seeing a lot more people interact now. Even in my analytics, I'm starting to see more of like in an American or European audience, as opposed to when I was India and I was just like 100% India. And then in that, there was Mumbai, Delhi, etc. But now I'm seeing a lot more cities, a lot more countries, which I think is exciting because coming here did give me the opportunity to just like get to know a new audience, which was fun.
But when you were deciding to go to college, was it a big contention point of should I continue with content creation? How will it impact?
No, absolutely not. I think when I was coming to college, I was 100% set on coming to college. One, because I hadn't grown to the level that I have now. I think back when I was leaving for college, I had about 50,000 followers, and then it didn't strike me that I ever wanted to do content seriously or anything like that. Then it was just like, oh, this is just for fun. I just have 50,000 followers, and while that might seem like a bigger number, it's not enough to get you a lot of money, a lot of brand deals. And I was also what, 18, 17 that at
Yeah.
that age and at that stage. So I wasn't even thinking in terms of a career at all. I was just like, oh, I just want to go abroad and study because that was the mindset I was in. So absolutely not. I feel like I always wanted to come abroad to study. So I feel like my content creation journey wasn't going to change that.
Yeah. So then what was that breaking point of, oh wait, this really could be a serious, viable life path here?
Yeah, so I think that happened when I hit 150,000 followers and I came back after freshman year. So 1 year of college, I had hit that 150K mark and I came back to Mumbai for my summer break, and that is when a lot of things started to take off. And that is when COVID was also getting a little bit better. Um, and I was starting to get invited to events. I found a company that wanted to sign me on and take over my brand deals for me. And when I saw all these things happen in real time, I was like, oh, wait, this is something that someone can actually do, someone can actually follow. If there's a company aimed at influencer partnerships and influencer relations and influencer marketing, which means it's obviously something serious because now the company I'm with, Monk Entertainment, has about 100 creators on their roster, and they're doing very well for themselves, touch wood. So I feel like there's definitely a real business then with their guidance, and a lot of other people that I was noticing were getting on to these contracts and were getting on with these companies was when I realized, okay, wait, there's actually something real here. Um, but it wasn't until like maybe this December when I came back, so literally 4 months ago, did I even consider maybe doing it seriously. I
Mm.
think up until this December, I was like, I'm just going to move to America and just try to find a job here. But now I guess I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah. So for the audience that isn't really too familiar with what a company that manages your brand deals and all is like, so what exactly does Monk Entertainment do for you?
Yeah, so they're essentially a talent management agency, the same way you have talent management agencies for actors or models. This is the same thing, but for influencers. So, what they do for us is, at least in the terms of my agency, is that because I love doing social media, aside from all of the business part of it, I get to keep all of my creative freedom. Whatever I want to post, I get to post. It is only when a brand comes up to me. So, for example, Pantene wants to come up and work with me. They'll either reach out to me directly or they'll reach out to my company if they know anyone from my company. And if they reach out to me, I'll straight up just say, head over to my manager at my company and they'll do all the negotiations with you. They analyze our profile, they analyze all of our insights, they come up with a number, they discuss that with us for rates on like reels, videos, etc. And then they will present something like that to the companies that come up with them and negotiate a deal. And based on that, I will just get something from my manager saying, hey, this with Pantene is locked. This is what they're looking for. This is the brief that they have. Can you send across a script or can you send across an idea? And that's essentially how it works. So it's exactly the same as an agency would do for an actor or a model.
And do you think, especially for smaller or growing creators in that few couple tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers range, would you say one of these companies is actually beneficial?
Actually, no. I think so. I joined Monk Entertainment myself when I was at about 150K. But when I was at 50,000 or 60,000 and I was earning a little bit of money from it myself, I think at that beginning stage, if you're trying to earn money from this, I don't think you need to give 20% away because I give 20% away as a part of my contract. So I don't think you need to give 20 or 30 or 10% away to a different company when you can do it on your own and your followers are still less and you still have time to figure out brand deals and stuff. I think it is only when you start growing to bigger numbers and more brands start coming to you and you're a little bit confused about how to strategize and this and that is when you
Yeah.
should go after a company. But if you're at the starting pace, you don't need to be giving away your money. Like I think at that point, even because there's not a lot of brands, you can handle that little brand deal on your own. I don't think it makes sense to join a company.
Okay. That wasn't the answer I was expecting, but
Really? You thought I would recommend it?
yeah, I thought so.
I wouldn't. I not yet at least. I feel like after you hit the 100K mark, I understand wanting to join a company, but I feel like not initially.
Yeah. But do you think it's helped because since you're in college, lack of time and other focuses that it's helped you in that aspect?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I'm very happy to be a part of my company because half of the work is already taken on by them. And I feel like I'm just at the receiving end of whatever they need from a brand. Like I'm very happy to actually not talk directly to a brand, especially if it gets heated. I don't know how to control myself, so I think it's better everything goes through a manager.
Yeah. So what's the research process like as a creator? I mean, what are you looking at? Where are you looking? Where do you see this is the next big trend? This is the next big break?
Right. So, like I said, in my case, I think I just look around me for inspiration. But if in terms of trends, I think I do what everyone else does. I sit on my phone for 2 hours every day and I'm just scrolling through whenever I get time. And I feel like that's how I know, oh, wait, this is a cool trend that's coming up, or oh, this is something cool that's coming up. So I feel like that essentially is very helpful. But yeah, I think I just do it like everyone else does. I feel like there's no cheat code or anything to how to know what's trending. I guess you just have to be in it and figure it out by yourself. So if you see an audio play on your For You page 2, 3 times in a day, then you know, okay, this might be coming up or this might be the new trend. But I
Hmm.
feel like I wouldn't know on my own. Like I don't have any way of figuring it out really.
And what are some of like the analytics or the metrics that you look at? Because for a podcast, I mean, I'm no expert, but for a podcast, it's mainly you're focusing on watch hours or view time rather than the number of views itself and things like retention and other metrics. So, what is
Yeah.
it for, say, short form content compared to YouTube videos that are 8 to 10 minutes?
Yeah, so definitely in terms of YouTube, I'm looking at watch time and click-through rate and things like that. So it's like how many newer people are clicking through my videos, or for how long is someone watching my YouTube videos. Am I at an average of 5 minutes or 4 minutes or 2 minutes? And that's how I kind of like measure my own success with YouTube. And then I think in terms of Instagram, it's definitely impressions or engagement and stuff like that. So it'll show you like, actually, let me see if I can pull it up and show it to you physically. This is not only audio, right? This podcast, like you upload a
No,
whole
no, yeah,
video.
yeah, there's videos of,
Okay, let me try to pull it up so I can just explain it a bit better.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely engagement and impressions. And so Instagram itself has an insights tab.
Hmm. Yeah, and it gives you breakdowns of impressions, viewers, click-through rate, all that kind of stuff.
Essentially,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it shows you, yeah. So it has accounts reached, accounts engaged, and then it'll show you like these are the accounts you reached. Some of
Hmm.
these are your followers, some of these aren't, like as per your reels, post
Yeah.
stories, etc. This is essentially what I'm looking at. Your top content, what worked, what didn't work,
Yeah.
etc.
And at least in my personal experience, it's all broken down pretty well. I think with the advent of technology and social media,
Yeah.
it's so much more accessible. I mean,
Yeah.
being a personality in 20 years ago, it would have to be something that's decided. You'd have to become an actor, or you'd have to become a TV anchor, or go on a TV show or something. But now, literally, anyone with a phone can make a living off of making videos of themselves. And they have all the tools, they have access to, even access to information or education. Like you can learn on YouTube
Yeah.
how to start creating content, how to make good content. So do you think is there any skills needed to start creating content? What do you really need to become an influencer?
Honestly, it takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of willpower, because there will be so many times when either your audience or the algorithm fails you, but you have to push through and do it. But also mainly you have to be passionate about something. You have to be fond of something, because a lot of people can wake up and say, "Oh, I want to be a creator, or I want to be an influencer," but you have to want to put out something too. Like, essentially, when I first started creating content, my thoughts in my head weren't, "I want to be a creator or an influencer." In my head, that wasn't even a real profession. It wasn't even a real thing for me. It was, "Oh, I should make a video about SoBo people and post it for my
Yeah.
friends." Because
Yeah.
when I put out my first video, my account wasn't even public. So you
Mhm.
have to want something you want to put out, or you want to have to be like good at something. You don't have to be good at it, but you have to want it. So
Yeah.
I feel like when you have something to put out, you have something meaningful to give out there, whether it's entertainment, even if it's silly, you just have to have an idea in your head. So I feel
Yeah,
like
I
that's
think
very
a lot of people aspiring, or at least looking from an outside perspective, don't realize the level of authenticity needed, or
100%.
personal willpower. I mean, it's not something you can force. It's still a creative field. If you're not interested in it, the same way a
Yeah,
writer can't write when they're not motivated, you can't produce content when you're not motivated.
exactly.
But
Exactly.
along those lines, to what extent is Taneesho a personality, and to what extent is Taneesho a representation of you as a person?
Oh, 100%. Like, I think it's 100% just a representation of me as a person. I
Mhm.
think everything I am, I just put out there. Even, and I feel like that sure might sound toxic in certain, like if you look at it from a certain aspect, but I just feel like my main account is like my private account. Like anything I want, I will just post. I
Yeah.
don't think twice about it. I was doing theater since I was, I don't know, since like fifth grade. So I always loved acting. I loved being on stage. I loved dancing. I loved singing. I've been a writer forever. So I feel like I just took all of that and I just decided to put it all out there. So I feel like it's 100% just me. I'm not trying to be anyone else. And like the Taneesho in itself was a pet name that was given to me from my friends. So it is really who I am.
Yeah. And when you're producing something that, like, it was something personal, it was, oh, this is a fun video, I wanted to put this out, and it doesn't perform as well as, say, something that follows a trend or follows a format that you've been following, how do you feel when a video performs not as well as others?
So I feel like that's happened to me quite a few times actually. I feel like initially when I started posting vlogs, sorry, especially with my friends, they weren't doing as well. But I realized that those videos that weren't doing as well in terms of numbers, a lot of people from that have been on my profile for a long time, or like a long time fandom, you could say, like people that have been here for a much longer time, I was finding more of a personal connection with those followers. And I feel
Mm.
like that also is very important. Like, yes, you should want to grow as a creator, but you also have to connect with the following that you already have.
Yeah.
So I feel like it didn't upset me as much because different videos will contribute to who you are online in different ways. So I
Mm.
feel like the strategy shouldn't always be, oh, I need to grow. It can also be, oh, I need to like relate or I need to like resonate. So
Yeah. And at what point do you see it as this is a business move, or this is a move as an influencer that went wrong? And wait, I phrased that really poorly. Um, to what extent is it this was as a business the wrong decision that I've made, or this was like, oh, this video didn't perform as well because I didn't do it properly? Because I feel like today, I mean, everyone sees this who's posted anything on social media, that the metrics and the numbers are so gripping and defining. It's almost like an addiction. Like,
it
this post got
is.
100 likes, but this post got 110 likes. What went wrong? Did I post at the wrong time? Did I post on the wrong day? And I've seen myself, and then I snap out of it, and I'm like, these are imaginary numbers. I mean, the purpose of this is to connect people, to connect friends. So from a business standpoint, when it's directly affecting your popularity and it is a direct measure of your success, I imagine I mean, that effect is amplified in the sense that it hurts a lot more. So how do you
Yeah,
separate yourself from it to make it feel less personal?
no, that's fair. I think initially it used to hurt a lot more. Is not just with things like that, even with hate comments. Like I feel like a lot of things I was taking very personally. But I feel like over time, when you've done it for so long, you just tend to get a little bit used to it, and you just have to mentally prepare yourself to know that not everything is going to do as well as another one could have. Because it's also very random, like as because the algorithm in itself, I don't think anyone has figured it out. It's a very random one. So some things are just going to pick up more, and some things aren't going to, even if you put more hard work into the latter. So I feel like you just have to, it's just how it is. You just have to get used to it. And I feel like when you've done it for so long, it's easier to get used to it. But yeah, it's obviously always a little bit upsetting. Especially because yes, a lot of influencers do look at their own profile as their businesses or as their babies. And in any profession, when you go a little bit wrong, you are bound to feel a little bit bad about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's just how it is.
Yeah. I think when it comes to hate comments, I mean, the Instagram comment section is potentially the most toxic place I've ever seen in my life. I've never
Yeah,
seen so much hate, and just like purely with the intention of hate. I mean, it's not even genuine misunderstanding, it's just for the
yeah.
purpose of spreading hate and for the purpose of arguing and trolling. If you look at
Correct. It's
any reel on
very abrasive.
Instagram,
Like it's very intense. But
yeah,
I think I feel like you have to, of course, it's not okay to hate. It's not okay to just be abrasive on the internet for no reason. Um, and I would never defend like a hater ever, but I feel like a big part of being an influencer is that you do have to prepare yourself for that happening. And you do have to be ready for that if that is something you want to do. So,
I think one thing that I appreciate about your comment section, I think it's such a tightly knit community that even when there are haters or like people making stupid jokes or sexist jokes or homophobic jokes or whatever it may be, there's always someone or multiple people responding to it saying, "Shut up, like get out." And
yeah,
I really love seeing the haters being shut down instead of being promoted and being at the top of comment section. So that's definitely
yeah,
a thing. But do you think
yeah.
that's a platform issue? Because I mean, I don't see so much hate on any other platform in terms of comments and such. Do you think that's an Instagram problem?
I think so a little bit. I feel like Instagram could definitely do a lot more to make it um a safer space for people to express themselves. I think they could definitely be a lot better with their censorship too, because they'll have the weirdest thing censored, but the rudest hate comment will still be there. And I find that
Yeah.
very confusing. I feel like they can definitely be better. Um, but I feel like even as an influencer yourself, like even on other platforms, there are still going to be hate comments where they may not be as bad as Instagram, but they are going to exist. And I feel like the only reason someone would comment hate on your video is if they're definitely feeling negatively in themselves. And
Hmm.
that's the only reason why it would come out on some random person on the internet, because how else are they going to express that, right? So I feel like just not taking that personally is much more helpful. But yeah, I feel like Instagram needs to do something about their guidelines for sure.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, even people of our generation, I don't think they truly understand the impact of hate comments. I mean, imagine when you were what, 17, 18, 19, first growing, hearing horrible things in your comment section, what impact that has on a minor, a child. I feel like it's such a new phenomenon that it's not documented or researched enough, and people
Yeah.
don't understand how messed up it can really be. So, I
Yeah.
mean, have you ever had like safety concerns or poor interactions with people in public or in the streets that have personally that you're willing to talk about?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, definitely there has been a question of safety, but more so because I'm also a female creator, I think that's all the more
Hmm.
scarier.
Yeah.
Um, there have been times where I've been in an Uber and an Uber driver has recognized me and he has I remember this one time I needed to pick my friend up and then go somewhere else. I was trying to add a stop, but it wasn't happening. And he was like, the Uber driver, and I don't think he meant anything negatively by this, but I just think as a woman, like you feel so paranoid in any situation that it obviously gets harder. So I think he was Bichara just trying to be helpful. He was just like, no, I can like just, I've recognized you from Instagram. Like, you don't have to book a new thing. I'll just drop you off.
Hmm.
Um, like don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But I obviously just declined and I said, no, I'll just book a new Uber. It's okay. Like I know he didn't have any bad intentions, but I think it just gets a little bit scarier. And then I also think there's a few male followers of mine who will come and recognize me in public and will ask for a photo. And then in that process might get a little bit too touchy in a way that
Hmm.
I'm not comfortable. So I feel like I've definitely been in those
Yeah.
situations. Um, and it has been a little bit stressful, but fortunately, it's nothing that I couldn't get out of without just communicating how I felt. Because I've always just
Yeah.
said, like, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. Can you back off a little bit? And I think it's fortunately in my experience, it's always been positive. But like you said, I'm also primarily in South Bombay around a lot of people I know. I've mostly been in places I
Yeah.
know, so I feel more safe than most would. But I feel like unfortunately for a lot of creators from different places where they may not feel as safe, or if they're in different place in a different country where they may not feel as safe, it's a very different and scarier situation.
Yeah. And do you get recognized often when you are here?
In Bombay, yes, like a few times I do. Like when I'm in public, I feel like it's happened more than I would expect. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, I would say a little bit in Mumbai. It happens sometimes here too. Like if there is a student from India in college, they'll come up to me like, "Oh, I've seen your stuff," and it's honestly really sweet, very wholesome.
Yeah. I mean, even I see it. I still remember, I think it was last Christmas only. I mean, every year you come to our house for Christmas, tradition as usual. And I'd call some of my friends and they were like, "Oh my God, is that Taneesho? How do you know her? Why is she here?" I was like, "Yeah, I know her, like it's chill."
Wait, I didn't know this.
Yeah. She
That's
was too
crazy.
scared to say hi to you.
Oh, wait, that's so sweet.
But yeah, I think that's quite wholesome that you're so well known. So I guess that's another benefit of a niche audience.
Yeah, I think because I'm in Mumbai and then I'm making content cater to so many Mumbai people, I feel like there are a few like really nice people who would come up to me and just be like, "Oh, I watched your stuff and it's really cool." So I feel like I think that's a very like rewarding part about doing content is when people
Mhm.
actually come up to you and say, "I know you." I think that's just in itself a very cool thing.
Yeah. And how do you deal with burnout when you are creating content?
I I don't think I do. Like, I feel like if I'm burnt out, I'm burnt out. Like, I'm not pressuring myself to put anything out there. I'm not like, I feel like with everything, I feel like the only way to deal with a burnout is to take a break. And there's no other way
Yeah.
to do it, whether it's social media, whether it's studying, whether it's like anything. If you're burnt out, you're burnt out. I don't think there's anything you can do to fix it. It's not like I can drink a cup of coffee and say, keep going. I
Yeah.
can't. Like, in that case, I take a break. So yeah.
Yeah. I think the image of influencers is like oh, it's such an easy job. You just record one video or you record 3 videos of yourself dancing and boom, you're done with work for the day. But people don't realize, like, if that's the reality of it, literally everyone would be doing that and would be successful. It's obviously so much more that goes into it.
Oh yeah.
And it's so frustrating to hear, like, oh, it's such a simple job. It's not.
It is. If anyone ever tells me, oh, like your job is really easy, all I say is, oh, then you do it.
Yeah,
You do it.
exactly.
You do it. It's fine.
So
And yeah, I actually had a friend who like recently messaged me saying, I'm really trying my hard to edit this video and it's not happening. Can you help me out? And it was a simpler thing, but it took him so long and he was just like, I have such a newfound
exactly.
respect for you and all these
Yeah.
other influencers because it was impossible for him to actually do it. So I thought that was a bit funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So have you ever considered other forms of content, like, say, a podcast or longer forms of content or anything really?
I used to have a podcast of my own actually. Um, I used to have it with this other creator, Dev Rayani.
Yeah.
He and I used to have a podcast together, and it was actually going pretty well. But unfortunately, we just ended up going to two different places for college, so it didn't work out long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I feel like now with the podcast, like I feel like everyone's doing it. It's become, I mean, no shade, but it's just
No,
it's
no,
just
no.
something that everyone's trying to do. And okay, so the difference between your podcast and a few other creators that I know is that your podcast, you're actually trying to contribute something, right? You're trying to talk about marketing, you're trying to talk about the business of something. Um, Whereas there are some people I know that are doing podcasts just for the fun of it. And I feel like if you're going to do a podcast, I feel like you have to be putting something out. You have to be, contributing to something in some way. So I feel like until I don't have that, I don't really want to start something new because that is a lot of work in itself.
Yeah, I think you were talking about the stereotype of, like, a group of bros who are like, oh, we're so funny, we should start a podcast, which is
Yes,
totally not what this is. This is for educational purposes. But
exactly. And I feel like even if it's an entertainment podcast, though, it should have something. Like you can't just sit and talk about, your life
yeah,
or your feelings.
exactly.
Like you have to
Exactly.
be doing something.
Yeah. But I mean, from what I understand, having a internet personality and a podcast accompanying that, isn't that a great way to have a core fan base for the podcast and for it to grow?
I would say yes. I feel like if you do, I mean that's a strategy, like, but it would work. I don't know how much it would work in the long term, right?
Hmm.
I feel like to really make a podcast work is to contribute in some way. So then one day when my followers are all grown up and they're not interested
Yeah.
anymore in, like fashion videos or like the same old comedy stuff I do, they may want to look for something else. And I feel like that's where they would look at my podcast because that is a different aspect of me. I feel like I can't be doing the exact same thing
Yeah.
on different platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I personally enjoy podcasts, listening to them, because
Yeah.
it gives such a different insight into not only the creator, but just it allows for so much more to be shared. Such an
Yeah.
expressive medium, and it's so much more authentic because it's just a raw
Yeah.
live conversation, and whether it be for
Correct.
1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I feel like it's a lot more open ended, and that's why I've personally gravitated towards it. But
100%. Yeah.
you'd mentioned long term. So you had said being an influencer is a great stepping stone, at least in this part of your life career. So where do you think it'll take you next? What do you aspire for it to take you next?
So I don't know actually. So I think I just recently, in fact, took the decision of coming home from America just to see if it works out for me or it doesn't. But I feel like with content, I don't quite know what I want to do long term yet, but I just know that I want to build it into something that'll get me the opportunity to do something with it later, if that makes
Mm,
sense. Because I'm fond of a lot of things. I'm studying advertising myself, so I feel like I do want to take it in some sort of entertainment direction, but I just don't know where that is right now.
yeah. And do you think you've learned any lessons from it that you can apply to, say, a conventional job of, say, in advertising?
Yeah, so much actually. I feel like now that I know now, so before I joined a company, I was dealing with those brand deals on my own. So I was dealing with the monetary part of it. I was dealing with invoices and taxes and things like that.
Yeah.
Very young age, which I think I've now very positively impacted just me knowing more, honestly.
Mm,
So I feel like even if I start off with an intern job, there are so many more things that I can do that they would give me as an intern. So I feel like that's just more opportunity to grow in a different field as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you'd mentioned you're coming back to India. So is that with the intention of focusing on content or exploring further?
Yeah, I think my thought process behind coming back was either, so f at first I was always convinced that I would stay here. But I think I had one conversation with my parents and I realized if I don't give this a real shot now, I would have never given it a real
Yeah.
shot. And I think I just like owe it to myself to at least try. So I feel like I'm going to come back now, try to do it full time for at least a year or two. And if it doesn't work out, then I'm going to have to go and find something else. But I just know that I
Yeah.
wanted to try.
Yeah. But I mean, the pressure of at least trying it out. I mean, it being your sole focus. Are you scared of in case it doesn't work out?
Yeah, 100%. I'm very scared because right now I'm fully banking on it to work out. But like if it doesn't work out, I just don't, I just want to know that I tried, right? Like I feel like I'm more scared of like regretting it as opposed
Yeah,
to actually trying.
absolutely. But I mean, I think your previous years and your growth has shown that hopefully it will work out and you'll explore in popularity a lot further than you already have. And if
Yeah.
not, you went to college, you have your education, and
Yeah.
still have a whole life ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess leaving your avenues open, that's a good takeaway to not put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard from some sources that you were
Right.
offered to go on Big Boss. Can you comment? Can you comment on this?
Who told you this, Tora? Like, so, I was offered to go on a reality show of some sorts. I'm
Mm,
guessing it was Big Boss, but I don't think it actually was. I'm not sure. Um, and I didn't do it, thank God, and I don't want to do it. Just because I just don't think it's for me. Like I want to do content, not be a reality star, if that makes
yeah.
sense. Right? Like I feel like that would take me in a completely different trajectory. And I am used to being in front of the camera when I want to be in front of it, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to be locked up in
Hmm.
a house, and then be recorded 24/7. I think what I love about content creation is that I can do it at my own terms. And I don't want to be like put into a situation where I can't. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
I think especially parts like Big Boss and these Indian style reality TV shows. Do you see a lot of other influencers or creators going into it? And do they see success or how do you think it turns out for them?
So I personally don't watch Big Boss myself, so I have no idea. And like I told you earlier, like I'd only do something if I personally indulge in it.
Yeah.
And so because I've never watched Big Boss myself, I don't even know who's on it, what's happening. Um, so yeah, I just wouldn't know how to answer that question.
I think you're missing out on some of the best shitty television of all time, but that is up to
Fair,
you.
fair enough.
Um, but yeah, I think those are all the questions I had for today. It was amazing talking to you. Do you
Yeah,
have
you too.
anything to say? Anything to add?
No, I think that's pretty good. The only thing I'd like to add is if anyone who's watching this and wants to do it, I feel like you should definitely try because it's worth a shot.
Mhm.
But like, remember to be patient with it as well. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching this episode of the Business of Show podcast. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you and have a great day.